Hi, I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Brianna.
and welcome to the Readers Clubhouse, where we revisit our childhood favorite content.
Caitlin.
Yeah,
So, something that has happened a number of times already in this series
tell
is
me about it.
us feeling a little bit emotional
Hmm.
after some character deaths and everything. And we'll go get into the one specifically for this one. But my transition question, I guess, for today is that what other piece of media have you had a scenario where it could be a character death or just a scenario that made you cry, and it cannot be a Redwall one. That's
Okay.
the thing, because we're talking about another Redwall book today.
Um, gosh. Okay, I'm gonna give uh, I'm gonna give three, okay?
Oh,
Now
geez. Okay. Okay.
bear with me. Because I'm gonna give the first two, which are both books, and then I'm gonna give the last one, which is funny, and you're gonna remember this, I think, hopefully.
Okay.
Um, because it happened a long time ago. And I'm now realizing actually we should add this media to our list of things to talk about one day.
Oh, okay.
Um, okay. So the first one recently, actually, but
Mm,
recently being the end of 2023, I got a book for Christmas that was called it's the final book in the sort of the first half of the Thursday Murder Club series. I'm not going to
oh,
spoil anything because it is a newer book, and so I don't want to, for people that like reading cozy murder mysteries, I think it's a great book series to read. But you know, there's something that is a follow through of something that started in the first book,
mm,
that was really, really sad. And it was beautifully done. It was sad. It was uh the what do I say? Like the results, or the consequences of this event that happens,
yeah.
um and sort of the relational changes that happen in the group. Absolutely brilliant and just really, really meaningful. And then uh the guy who wrote the books, I think, just does a really beautiful job of dealing with grief, and especially of losing, so one of the characters, her husband had died like years and years ago, like before the book
Mm,
even started. And just sort of there's something that happens, and it's just like really beautiful moment between two of the friends, including
yeah.
her. So that was really beautiful. um there's also this book that I read. It's a Japanese novel that was translated into English, and it's called The Traveling Cat Chronicles. And
Mm,
that one I'm going to spoil because it's less well known than the Thursday Murder Club is, but it's telling a story from the perspective of a cat, but it's about a man and a cat, like his cat, and the
yeah.
man's trying to find a new home for his cat. Uh, and the
Mm,
cat's like, I don't really understand why you're trying to do this. And the man goes to visit four old friends and or family, and then the cat is telling the man's story sort of through these visitations with these friends, and it's exploring themes of why and how, experiences that we have with people, sometimes there's a breakdown of relationship or sometimes there's a change of relationship. It also explores like the effect of cancer on someone, because the man, you find out sort of towards the end of the book, the reason the man is trying to rehome his cat is because he's dying of cancer, and so he
yeah.
needs to find a new home. And he ends up having the cat, there's just nowhere fit for the cat with except
Mm,
for him. And the cat is like, I will not go to anyone else. Like
yeah.
it's just, there will no, I will be there until the end. And it's just so sad because
Yeah.
the man goes to live with his aunt, and the aunt sort of ends up taking care of him. It's the aunt that raised him after his parents died, when he was young.
Mm, yeah.
Because everybody needs a tragic backstory, Brenna.
Absolutely.
And he ends up going into hospice, and the cat like stays with the aunt while he's there. But when he moves into the hospital, obviously the cat can't come with him. But the cat lives outside the hospital and goes up
Mm,
to the window every single day. And anytime the man comes out, because at first it's just this really slow decline, and it is gut wrenching.
yeah.
And then the man dies, and the cat learns about the man's death, and just the depiction of grief and
Mm,
the cat like screeching. It's just so sad. I was like,
yeah.
oh my gosh. And I'm babysitting at night, like one night reading this. I read it in like 3 hours. It's not a long book.
Yeah.
Um, like weeping at this because then at the very end of the book, the cat ends up going to live with the aunt and all the friends gather around and there's this really beautiful moment of everybody reminiscing and this man's death brought these people together.
Yeah.
And then the cat dies at
Yeah.
the end of the book after like a long life, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like it's sudden. But then the cat and the man are reunited in death. And I was just
Yep.
like I was literally weeping, just like tears streaming down my face. And then I hear the door open downstairs, and I'm like, "Oh crap, they're home!" And I was just a wreck, and I was like wiping the tears away from my face, just emotionally wrecked. And then
Yeah.
my friend who I was babysitting for, and then my roommate who they were at a meeting together, um, came in, and I was just like, they're like, "Oh yeah, how was your night?" And I'm like, guys. I just read something so devastating. It's
Yeah.
terrible. Um, and finally,
Mm.
the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
I forgot about this. But now I
Yeah.
remember.
I don't know what it was. I don't
That's
remember.
such a classic.
It's not a whole lot to say about that other than that I remember watching that and it must have been for the first time, I think,
Yeah.
probably. And I cried when Godzilla died.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, they kind of were like, they purposely were tugging, because I've watched that movie multiple
uh-huh.
times because I love just the like cheesiness of it and everything.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just one
Absolutely.
of my favorite aspects of it. Also has a lot of fun, funny people in it.
Yep.
And they like definitely go to tug on your heartstrings because like there's that part where it's like, yes, all of the baby Godzilla are going to eat everybody.
Yeah.
But when Godzilla sees the dead babies, you're like,
Oh, yep.
and then
And it
Godzilla
grieves.
dies.
Godzilla
Yeah,
grieves for
it
the loss
does.
of his little babies.
Yeah. Yep, yep.
Anyway,
So
what about you,
that doesn't
Brianna?
surprise me. There's one specifically that I was thinking of that for weirdly, it's weirdly stuck with me that I had this emotional reaction to this,
Hmm.
even though I don't remember all of the circumstances through the whole episode. But so I grew up watching Stargate,
Hmm.
and at one point in my 20s, I sat down and watched all of Stargate Atlantis because I
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
liked that one more and everything for
Yeah.
various reasons that I don't even actually know anymore and stuff. It was also shorter
Uh,
than the like I don't remember how many seasons of the first series. But one of my favorite characters in the show was the Scottish Doctor,
mhm.
and everything.
Rodney?
Rodney, I forgot his name. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
And he just was like so sweet and caring, and he was a great kind of like doctor character. And then also there was a couple episodes where there was an episode where he swapped bodies, I think with the angry scientist guy
Oh
who
my
I also,
gosh, yes, the
yeah,
Canadian
and
guy.
the Canadian guy, who you grew to love but
Yeah.
hated at the beginning and everything because he just was a jerk and stuff.
Yeah.
But like at some point in one of the earlier seasons, him and
Rodney.
Rodney swap bodies,
Oh,
and they like something happens, and the girl that Rodney likes is involved, and all these other things and stuff. So there was that. Then we get
oh,
to
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Rodney was the Canadian. It's
oh,
Carson, Dr. Carson,
Dr.
or
Carson,
Dr.
thank you.
Beckett.
Dr. Beckett. So
Yeah,
Carson Beckett and stuff.
Carson
So,
Beckett, yeah.
I loved Carson. He like was so good, but something happened at some point. I never looked into this and
Mhm.
everything, and I'm guessing the actor had to step away or whatever because they had an episode where stuff was happening, and I think he had a bomb in his brain or something like that. I don't even
Mm.
remember the whole thing, but we were watching this and like, or I was watching this and I like he died because I wasn't expecting him to like actually die. I thought they were gonna figure it out, and I he died at the end, and I was
Oh,
like, oh my God, why? And I was like crying watching this and
yeah.
stuff. So actually, I don't even know if this was when I was in my 20s. It might have been my early teens because there was a while that I also was watching like weird older series, not weird, but like older series all the way through. But I do think it was in my early 20s.
Oh,
But yeah. So that one really got me more so than any other character death that they did at any point and stuff. Because I just love kind characters. They've always been comfort characters, I guess you could say to me, and he was definitely
Yeah.
one of them. So that one really devastated me. And
Gosh.
the other big one that I remember growing up was a Redwall one, so that's why I'm not using that one for
Yeah.
this one. We've talked about him before.
Yeah.
Finbar Gale Deep from the Bellmaker. But
Amen.
yeah,
Yes.
so that definitely Dr. Carson Beckett, the Scottish doctor from Stargate Atlantis, was a big one for me.
That I honestly completely forgot about this.
Hmm.
And you're so right. I'm reading the summary at this current moment of Stargate Atlantis. And let me tell you, when there is nonsense, that's
Yeah.
so, I'm like, it's one of the what time? No, we can't.
We don't
Okay.
have time to go into it. We'll talk
We'll
about
talk about this
Stargate Atlantis
after
another time, maybe.
or after this. After we record, we'll have a
Yeah, after we're
conversation.
done recording, we'll have a conversation. You better type
Yeah.
a note because we'll forget if we don't.
I don't know what you're talking about. I forget nothing. Okay, Brianna, beautiful, beautiful introduction question. Can you tell us
Thank you.
what we've read, what we're talking about today? Let's get this party going.
Absolutely. So we are moving along in our Redwall series. We have gotten to Loamhedge, which I think is one that stuck close with both of us and everything
Oh
for a long
yeah.
time. Um, and at this point, the stats are a little bit irrelevant. Most of you already know this, but I'm still gonna say them just for consistency's sake.
Consistency.
So we at this point somehow Brian Jakes is releasing a book a year. It's just wild to me, honestly. Like,
Why do
it's
you write like you're
crazy.
running out of time?
Literally, that song would fit Brian Jakes. If we were doing like a fan edit of a thing, yes, 100% that would be his background song. So yeah, Brian Jakes wrote Loamhedge. Well, he released Loamhedge in 2003. It is still a fantasy fiction series, and it's still a more like middle grade, kind of going into young adult vibes and everything. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna head right into the summary of the story because it's kind of long. Sorry, guys. I just some of them are short and some of them are long, and
Surprise,
this is one of the
surprise.
ones. Yeah, this is one that definitely ended up being long. So, are you ready, Caitlin?
I'm never ready. I'm just kidding. Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. Go, go, go.
North of Mossflower Woods, a young otter and his father stumble upon a wounded badger. The badger and his old caretaker who was killed were attacked by Ragabol, a sea rat captain. The badger, Lana, knows that he is destined to take revenge on the rat and sets off to chase Bull and his crew down. At Redwall Abbey, we meet a young hairmaid named Martha. Her and her brother were brought to the Abbey many seasons before by their grandmother, who died soon after they arrived. Due to the trauma of the situation she came from, she has not been able to walk since. She has many friends at the Abbey, especially in Torek, the old otter cook, who is like a father to her. One night, Martha falls asleep in her chair under Martin's tapestry after reading a story about the mice of Loamhedge, the once home of the mice of Redwall, many seasons past. She is visited by Martin and Sister Amel, who also once used a wheelchair. They provide a message that gives hope to Martha that she may one day walk, like Sister Amel was able to. They let her know that two figures from the past would arrive and could make the journey to Loamhedge to find the secret that was left behind there. Not too far off from the abbey, an otter and a squirrel are able to bamboozle a meal out of a gang of hapless vermin. Burgoon and Sarabando are mighty warriors, but find themselves getting on in seasons. They find themselves drawn back to the home of their youth, Redwall. Sneaking into the abbey by an old route they knew from their Dibbon days, they sneak into an ongoing feast. They are soon recognized by old friends and family. They enjoy their time, though have a bit of a run-in with the local angsty teens of the abbey. Horty, Martha's older brother, Martha's older, more wild-haired brother, Fenna, the young squirrel maid, and Springald, the mouse maid. They decide they want to go on the adventure with Burgoon and Sorrow, but neither thinks that they can handle it. The next day, the two old friends set off for Loamhedge, though they soon come to find out they are not able to escape the three young friends' company. Lana is hot on the trail of Ragabol, and Bull knows it. He has nightmares of the badger on his heels. At one point, he even sends assassins back to take care of him, but Lana is able to easily dispatch the vermin with his longbow. As Lana travels further, he eventually runs into Burgoon and the others. They are being chased by cannibalistic rats, and with his help, they are able to escape them fully. He continues on the hunt, while the small band makes their way to the large desert. They run into many hardships out there, but eventually come across a huge gorge where a large tree was laying as a bridge. It is eerie, but they're able to cross it. It is revealed, though, that the return trip may not be so easy. Meanwhile, a small band of vermin that Burgoon and Sarah bamboozled had set their sights on Redwall, or more like their new and very delusional leader, Bad Bread, has, especially with the talk of a magic sword. They are able to sneak into the abbey where they make the denizens have to hole up in the building itself. After a number of days, the Redwallers make plans to finally push back the vermin, but it is too late. Ragabol has stumbled upon the abbey, and it is now a full crew of sea rats they have to contend with, not a small band. The Redwallers are dismayed. The sea vermin set upon the abbey, and in one intense moment, Martha sees that the abbot is about to be killed, and in that moment, she hears Martin urge her to save the abbot. She leaps out of her chair and saves him, and realizes that she is finally able to walk. With this newfound ability, she desperately wants to help her home, and sees a way when Lana makes an appearance, but can't get in. She sneaks out and is able to get his attention and help him into the abbey. In a final standoff, he kills Ragabol and the other rats. Back with a small band, they eventually come upon an old mouse who lives at Loamhedge. He leads them there, though not until after eating a number of meals with them. They explore the old building with overgrown areas and eventually find the grave they are looking for. But it appears that the only thing left is the remains of a wheelchair. Dejected, the younger ones leave, but Burgoon and Sorrow keep looking. They eventually emerge and state they have found something, and they set back off. As they approach the gorge, everyone feels uneasy. They try to be as quiet and quick as they can, but it is for naught. A strange creature called a were-rat and his minions surround them on both sides. The warriors fight hard to make their way to the other side and push the young ones past them, telling them to get to the friends they knew would be on the other side. In their final stand, Burgoon and Sarabando fight like mad beasts until they make a last-ditch effort to push the giant log into the chasm. They succeed, and the werewolves fall to his death. But sadly, the two old friends are too injured to go on, and they finally pass on, going into the next journey. The young ones do eventually make it home to Redwall, where they are revealed to the abbot and Martha that Fenn is to be the next abbess one day. 10 seasons later, we see that all had been well, and the Redwallers continue to honor their old friends, Burgoon and Sorrow. So,
Well
one thing
done,
I
Brianna.
Thank you. Yeah. One thing I do want to or I should have remembered to add this, but I got too caught up in trying to finish it.
Mhm.
Um, I mentioned towards the end that Burgoon and Sorrow, they'd been looking for something when they found the remains of the wheelchair, and Burgoon and Sorrow had found something, and I forgot to mention this in my summary, but what they found wasn't actually something that had been left behind previously. It was something they made because there was nothing left behind and everything.
Okay.
So there was a note essentially that made its way to Martha eventually,
Hmm.
that was more of an encouragement than anything and stuff. So, and we can talk more about it in a second. I realized that I forgot that important thing to bring that back around. So,
Yeah.
sorry, guys.
I mean, that's okay. They would never have known. Um, okay. So songs and poetry.
Mm,
I don't have a ton that I want to say in
yeah.
this. There's three things. The first thing is there's a song at the beginning of the book that they sing in Redwall about Bragoon and Sorrow because they're sort of Horty and his friends, Fenna and Springald, they all sort of idolize, excuse me, Bragoon and Sorrow because of this song. And it's this poem, it's the tale of two Dibbins who lived here long ago, an otter who was named Bragoon and a squirrel known as Sorrow. It basically just talks about their antics as Dibbins and how utterly disruptive and destructive they kind of could be.
Yeah.
So I love that it's I love that how what it sets up as sort of this expectation of what Burgoon and Sorrow had been like, and then also sets up this expectation, especially for Horty and Fenna and Springald, who sort of hear this information about them and like, oh yeah, we love them. To then when they actually meet them in person, realize even though all the things the song says probably are true, the things that they did, the year it's been seasons and seasons since they were back at Redwall. They did
Mm.
not come back and sort of come and go. They left and they did not come back for like the equivalent of like 40 years. They left
Yeah.
when they were teens and they didn't come back for like 40 years. So it has been a long, long time.
Yeah.
And that's just very sad. But also I just thought I think Brian did a really good job of setting up the characters of Sarah and Burgoon
Yeah.
as sort of these not quite villain, but naughty Dibbins who were wild and reckless and couldn't be trusted.
Yeah.
To then when he brings them back, instead it's these are trusted, worthy adults who have had years of experience and
Yeah.
learned how to survive in a world that is kind of cutthroat. So
Yeah.
that was cool. Uh, Also, you said in your review, in your summary, that Martha had a dream of Martin and his sister Amel. And I think just because a lot of those things are poetry
Yeah.
that he writes. So it's this poem that that Sister Amel tells her. Where once I dwelt in Loamhedge, my secret lies hid from view, the tale of how I learned to walk when once I was as you. Though you cannot go there, look out for two who may, travelers from out of the past, returning home someday.
Mm.
So that's sort of the poem that sets them on the journey. They want to discover sort of a cure is maybe not the right word, a way for Martha to walk. And they have this dream. They find this ancient tome that tells the story of Sister Amel, who basically was in a wheelchair, learned how to walk, and then escaped with Abbess Germain back in the ancient past.
Yeah.
And then Sister Amel and Martin visit Martha in that dream.
Mhm.
And the final thing I want to say is that the vermin sing
Yes.
songs.
Absolutely.
Um, they're not many. There's a few of them, and I tried looking through. I should have taken notes when I was actually, but I was listening to this, so I couldn't have taken notes. I have two physical copies of Loamhedge now. Oops. Um,
Oops.
but I
People
was
have done that
listening to
before.
it. I mean, yeah, it's because I was saying to you when we were at the bookstore last week that I'm really trying to purchase hardcover copies of all of the Redwall books so I can have the full
Yeah.
set. And actually, there's a few that, like Triss, I'd like to get a new hard copy because it is falling apart. I think we read that
Mm.
one quite frequently when we were kids.
Probably.
Because it is wrecked, if we're being honest. And some of the other ones aren't. But anywho, yeah, so the Vermin sing some songs. It's kind of funny. There's one particular one that is kind of the song singer of the small Vermin band,
Yeah.
who keeps making up ditties about the captain, Bad Red. So
Yeah.
that's all I
He's
kind
not
of
the
have to say about
smartest.
that. Do you have any thoughts or things you want to
Um,
talk about besides poetry?
Not really. Honestly, there wasn't a whole lot that stuck out to me except for the vermin singing, honest, because that's the first time that
Yeah.
I can remember of during any of the books we read so far that we've had vermin characters actively sing
Hmm.
and make up songs and those kind of things. And it's interesting because, like, the thing about the group of those vermin is, yes, they were vermin,
Hmm.
but specifically the ones that didn't become at some point a leader and
Hmm.
everything in the group just kind of wanted a vibe. Like that one that
Absolutely.
is the mostly this. Yeah, there he's just literally at one point, and this is the part where we end up realizing, oh, Ragabul's here, is him and his mate, which I think in this case straight up means his wife, basically, because it was a female. I think they were both ferrets, I want to say, or weasels. And they always stuck together and everything. I think
Yeah.
they were like a couple technically and
Yeah.
stuff. Even though that nothing really was like said that made you think that too much. But they were like, yeah, we're gonna get out of here. We're kind of tired of Delulu, Bad Red, and everything.
Yeah.
Let's just go. We have this food, and that's when they get caught by Ragabol and then like kind of forced to come back. And you kind of feel sorry for them because at this point, when they get to that point, you're just like, wow, another thing. Because I think that thing that helped with this, sorry guys, going off on a thing that's not about song and poems.
Tangent.
The thing I think is very interesting about this group, tangent, the thing I think is very interesting about this group is that largely certain characters we don't see actually be bad guys. There's a couple,
Hmm.
like I can't remember. Does their vermin group kill the Cellar Hog, or is it Ragabul's vermin crew?
I believe it's Ragabul's Vermin Crew.
Okay. Which I think solidifies this, I mean, thing for me. I mean, Bad Red, he's honestly ridiculous. As like he's honestly, like I said, he's delusional. He
Yeah.
has like he's kind of got like our concept of Napoleon complex. He's
Hmm.
little, but also like I gotta be big, kind of a thing and stuff. But like largely, this other group, we don't really see them actually like kill anybody or and then but like a large portion of them kill anybody. We just kind of see them wandering around doing their thing and stuff. So like I felt some sympathy for them as like Ragged Bull came into the
Yeah.
picture because he treated them horribly and stuff, even though they also aren't good people technically in the course of the story. Um, but so I thought that was very interesting is like we didn't actually see specifically the ones I'm thinking about or that ferret and his mate and then a couple of others who don't actively show that they killed somebody. Yeah. So like just this like concept of we don't see them do something terrible on page, so we attribute some sympathy to them because
Yeah.
of the scenario that they're in. I thought that was really interesting.
That is really interesting and definitely something we've talked a lot about how Brian doesn't really do nuanced vermin very well.
Yeah.
He'll do nuanced woodland creatures
Yes.
well ish, but
Yeah.
because you actually have quite a few woodland creatures that sort of turn out to be cruel or unkind or just like
The large
unpleasant to be around.
The problem I have with that a little bit is sometimes it's just like it's the voles. They're always a
Yeah.
little bit neutral and everything, or like not even neutral. They're just like easy to sway one way or the other usually.
Oh,
Um,
shrews. Like shrews are another one that often
Shrews,
when you have
yeah,
a bad woodland creature, it's a shrew,
yep.
like the one that
Poison
killed.
Kate,
No, point in
words.
case.
Point in case, thank you. The one from Marlfox, I
Hmm.
think is what it was.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Fenno or fennel
And
or
there's
fennel.
one also in tying back to the book that this is tied to, Madame Mayo, because there was a bad
Yeah,
one that rebelled against Logalog and
yeah,
everything, which is interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So not there's it's not a lot of nuance, but it's a there is some nuance a bit more on the woodlander side where there's not as much nuance on the vermin side.
No. Yeah,
Which we talked
absolutely.
about previously, which I know we talked
Yes.
about previously because I was editing episodes recently and
Oh.
I remember I talked. It's fun to listen to those again, not because I enjoy the sound of my own voice, mostly just because as I'm listening to edit them, I were like, oh, we said we were going to talk about that again, and we didn't. And this is why today I wrote things down because
Smart.
has it taken us 26 episodes for me to realize that we need to write things down? We're like, oh, we'll talk about that later. And
Yeah.
then, yes, it
That's
has.
actually a good point for us to remember if like, oh yeah, we'll talk about this later. If we ever need say that, we do need to write it
We
down here
need
so I
to write it
write it.
down
Yeah.
because, like you said earlier, Brianna, not going to remember it. I'm talking about
Yep.
Atlantis after this.
Yep.
Okay, let's break it down.
Break it down.
And not in a dance way. There's two things we usually get into the sort of world building story section, and I do want to do that, but I actually want to break it up into two things because I want to break it up into world building slash their journey,
Yeah.
and then I want to get into some of the story points that we want to talk to or talk about because usually we sort of hit an area and we sort of talk. It's a little bit more rambly for us as we
Yes.
interchange, but this one I want to sort of talk about just sort of the list um of locations they travel to.
Yeah.
And then I want to start our story discussion talking about the geography.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's sort of a bunch they're on a journey and we sort of have one static location and that's Redwall. And then you have Lana's journey, you have Ragabul's journey, and you have Bragoon and Sorrow and Ko's journey.
Yeah.
Lana and Ragabul's journeys are parallel
Yeah.
and end up at the
Well,
same place. Parallel. They're not literally parallel, but I'm
no,
just
you're
saying
right. Sorry. Yeah. I got a little too literal in my head right there.
you did get too literal. They went the same way because Lana is chasing Ragabol.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
You're
that's
right.
why they're parallel.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we have Redwall, which is where we start off with Martha's story and sort of the static Redwall story, as well as you have Sorrow and Dragoon. That is where their story in this book starts. Then
Yeah.
you have the Sea Otter Camp, where Lana is rescued and recovered, and also near that is where Lana and his caretaker were attacked by Ragabul's creatures.
Mm.
You then have Ragabul and Lana's journey through sort of on, I believe it was the River Moss. It's not actually labeled in it's just one of the many little rivers that come in from the sea, question
Yeah.
mark. Okay, we'll get to the map later. And then you have they sort of go around, follow the river. They go through Mossflowerwood, and Lana and Ragabul both end up at Redwall. Lana does, for some reason that I can't quite understand, maybe other than chasing some vermin, does end up meeting Hordy and crew. So Bragoon and Sorrow and crew.
Yeah.
You looked like you wanted to say something.
Uh, the point when he meets them is when those assassins that
Mm.
uh Ragabol had sent back do, and he chased one off.
He chased
Like,
one off. Okay.
and I think that kind of like took him, and I could be misremembering a little bit, but I feel like it took him slightly off course, but
Okay.
still heading in the right direction,
Okay.
for it because when he'd run into the cannibalistic rats right before running into, or at least a portion of them, right
Mhm.
before he ran into Horty and crew. Well,
Okay.
yeah, all of them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. It's on the map, the journey is a bit confusing. So,
Oh yeah.
you know. So then there's also the cliffside and a cave where they hide out for a little bit. Then up on the cliff, sort of in a different section, not Mossflower, it's the cliffside, so sort of Loamhedge area. You have the woodlands that they pass through. You have the wastelands that also have the Badger and Bell Rocks. There's also a river that cuts through those as well that they cross over. That's where they meet the not the Gaussum. What are they called, Brianna?
I don't remember. I just remember it was a different. I should have wrote it down. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look through the book. Okay. This is Redwall. This is Shrews. The Galrath. The Galrath.
Galrath. Okay.
Guerrilla Union of River. Huh. I know it's still Guerrilla Union. Also, just why is it Guerrilla Union? You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah, something to kind of speak into that real quick.
see that while I'm looking for this.
Yeah, so kind of clarify, guys. We have our like shrews are a staple in the series, and the Gaussum shrews specifically are. They're a group that is throughout different parts of Mossflower. We run into them in all sections. The thing that kind of baffles me in this is we run into a completely different group that like has a different name. And there's another couple things that kind of bothered me with like geography wise, also mixing with the fact that this is a different group of Gaussum shrews. It's not even their different group of Gaussum, a different group of shrews that have similar culture and everything to the Gaussum, but they're not Gaussum shrews. And the issue I have isn't the fact that there's a different group. The issue is that at no point did Ryan set it up well for me to think that there would be other different groups because there's been multiple times where like how big is Mossflower, I guess is my question. This really
Yeah.
ties in with the world building aspect. Like how big is it? Because also going to the that giant tree that stretches across the gorge,
Yeah.
it was called the Lord of Mossflower or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like at that point I would not have said even in when I was reading Matthias and everything or reading Matameo that that was a part of Mossflower. At
Yeah.
that point in my brain they were out of Mossflower. So why is something that's not in my brain at least in Mossflower referenced as part of Mossflower? And then like in another series and not another series. In other books, like Salamandastron, good one, that we had some tie-in. in Marlfox is that like lake, that huge lake and everything. The Gaussum were up that far. Like yeah, it's pretty out of the way, but like the Gaussum went up that far.
Yeah.
So, but I still don't consider that a part of Mossflower in my opinion and stuff. And that's just me in my brain and everything, whether or not it is actually on
Yeah.
paper and stuff. So it was really weird to me that like we're saying that far out, almost like over halfway to Loamhedge is considered a part of Mossflower if we're referencing it like a thing as the Lord of Mossflower.
Yeah.
Um, but then completely different, all this other stuff and everything. And then like there's some random group of new shrews all of a sudden
Yeah.
a part of this. I don't know. It just like baffles me a little bit. I'm like, okay, again, nothing wrong with having different shrew groups. It's just at this point in the story, in the series, never had that before. This is the
Yeah.
first time he's done this.
Yeah. I think it's the
Yeah.
Guerrilla Union of Roving and Fighting Shrews.
Mm.
That's what they're called, the Gaura.
Yeah.
And I agree. Here's how I'm going to justify it.
Mm.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. When Logalog and the shrews with Martin, nope, with Matthias, went to save Matameo,
Mm.
some of them liked the area. And so they were like, we're going to stay here. And that is how I'm going to justify it. That's
Okay.
it. There's no mention of that. There's no mention of it anytime, anywhere in any of the rest of the books, any of the in-between books, I guess, between
Yeah.
Matameo and Loamhedge. But that is how I personally am going to justify that somehow. Also, their union of roving and fighting shrews.
Mm.
So rather
But
than guerrilla union of shrews and mossflower, they're roving and fighting shrews.
yeah,
I'm not
valid.
saying I'm not saying it's a good justification. I'm just
Yes.
saying this is how I'm smooshing the continuity in my brain because it must be smooshed. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Also,
Yeah.
you said shrew groups, and you want to know what my brain did?
What?
Shroop.
Oh
The
my
shroops.
gosh. The
Okay.
shroops.
Yes. Moving on from the shroops. So then you have the gorge and the log bridge, which you were talking about. It was one time the giant tall tree. And then you have Loamhedge proper, and then they journey back. So those kind of the journey that they take and the different locations, different things that they run into. So lots of interesting things. Now, a few things we need to talk about the story. The first thing I want to talk about, Brianna,
Yes.
we read Matameo.
Yep.
And one of the big things is that they follow the similar path that Matameo's rescuers took. That,
Yeah.
but well, actually, not just Matameo's rescuers. That Slagar the Cruel, the fox that kidnapped all the children, and
Yes.
also Matthias and co. took.
Yeah.
They follow a similar path. Now, something is mentioned in this book that here's the journey that they took, but geography will have changed over time. So things
Yes.
may not be the same as they went. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
totally fair, especially if we're looking at several hundred years. If
Yes.
you know that's what
Because
we're.
to put in perspective,
Mhm.
since the time of Tagarun, it is
Yes.
at the point in Triss been over 500 seasons. It was vaguely mentioned by Sagaxis's mother apparently at some point.
Okay.
So like he said like 5 generations or something, and I just kind of like rounded up
Badger
to an even
generations.
100 Badger generations.
Mhm.
So this has been like a long time ago. And even prior to that, that had been, I think by the time between we got from Redwall to Tagarun, it'd been like, I want to say like 300-ish years, maybe even a little bit less, a little bit more. It's a little bit confusing again, but it wasn't like,
Well, I don't think so because you have Redwall, Matameo, and Pearls of
mm,
Lutra are
yes,
essentially sort of because that's the three generations of Matthias, Matameo, and Martin the Second.
yes,
And then you have the Long Patrol. So those
yeah,
books, because Tansy is an adult. So I would
yes,
say you've probably got about 20 years between Redwall and Matameo. Probably, I don't know, maybe 40 years between Matameo and Pearls of Lutra because you've got Martin the second is a grown adult, and Matthias, or sorry, Mattimeo and his mother are, or Mattimeo and Tess
Trip is
Birchmouth,
Tess. Oh no, it's Tess.
Tess, I
Yeah, it was
think,
Tess.
him and Tess. Tess are dead, and Martin the second is a grown adult, like an older adult.
Yeah,
And then you probably have another 40 years. Was that's like 80, 40, 80, 60, no, 100. So you probably have about 100 years ish,
yeah,
maybe 120 from Redwall to
yeah,
the end of the Long Patrol.
yeah,
About 100 years. So then I guess the question would be between, of course, we're 100 seasons. If we're
yes.
saying one season is 1 year, basically.
Which is the way that they treat it in this
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. Then between Tansy and Song, who was alive in Marlfox from Tansy's
It was the baby owl and one of the younger Dibbins. I don't remember which one it is right off the top of my head.
Nutwing or Nutbeak and the Dibbin who became Recorder, who were
Yes.
ancient. So we'll probably give that a good 60 years
Mm.
because that's enough time for all the older people to be dead and even some
Mhm.
of the middle people to be dead, although it doesn't make sense why
Yeah.
all the anyway.
Well,
Um,
Krega's still alive then.
yes, she's the only one.
Yes, yeah.
Right. So that would say it's about 60 years. And then between Song and Mira, it's longer because in Tagarung they don't have anybody other than
Krega.
Frega alive.
Yeah.
So we'll call that 80 years, probably.
So Krega is like almost 200 at that point then.
Yeah. I mean, she was very ancient, you know what I'm
True.
saying? So, yeah. So I would say, what is 60 plus 80? Hold on. 140. So it's 140 years from the end of the Long Patrol to the end of Tagarung.
Mm.
So altogether, 260 years from Redwall to the end of Tagarung is
Mm.
what I'm gonna say. And
Okay.
then you're saying it's about five Badger generations, so about 500 years, right?
I'm just
From
rounding that
we'll
into
call
an
it
even number.
450. We'll call it
450,
450.
okay.
Okay? Because
Because not
Badger,
every badger lives to
yes.
be 200.
And yeah, exactly. So then so that's the start of Triss, and we don't know how long it was between Triss and
Loamhedge.
Loamhedge, which
There's
is
no indicator whatsoever.
nothing connecting it literally at all. No abbot, no mention of a previous abbot or abbess, no mention of a previous Badger Lord, no mention of anything at
Yeah,
all. Yeah, so it's probably been like from Redwall, what we'll say 800 years or something?
probably, yeah. And then before that, between honestly Martin the Warrior and Redwall, that
Martin
was
the
pr
Warrior, are you mean Luke, Legend of Luke, and
no, Martin the Warrior, because Martin the Warrior is the earliest chronologically.
I see. Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Martin the Warrior and Redwall, that's like probably also 500 to 800 years, depending, give or take. Because I know
Yeah.
like there's like also really long living creatures, all this other stuff and
Yeah. Because
everything.
we've got
Oh
Outcast
no, Lord
and Miriam.
Brocktree's the
Lord
earliest.
Brocktree's the
Like
earliest.
he's like I want to say he's like 100, 200 years before Martin the Warrior. Probably actually more than that now that I think about it, but
I don't know about more than that. Although, okay, but here's the thing.
that's the thing is like the we don't want to go
Because
too into
Boar
this
was,
because
we're too into it already, Brandon.
yeah, we are,
Boar
but
was
like
ancient when
that was one of my qualms I
Martin,
had with
yeah,
Rocktree was because there was made mention of the bad guy from
yeah,
Mossflower vaguely being connected to the bad guy that they fought against in Lord Brocktree. But it time-wise, even if the Wildcats also lived as long as Badgers, didn't make sense to me
because they would be
why he would
brothers,
be.
not,
Yeah, like
yeah, yeah,
it didn't make sense to me,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
But yeah, so that again, this whole conversation just emphasizes how unbothered Brian was with
Hmm.
timeline consistency or like time consistency wise. It was just we needed these vibes
Yeah,
and stuff instead of being like, oh yeah, let's like honestly, now that we're talking about this, I think Loamhedge is the only one up to this point that we have no anchor to where it is te like I guess that's a lie. We have no anchor like fully of like because even in Salamandastron there was made mention of where it was in the timeline basically and stuff. And all we know about Loamhedge is it's after what happened, like
Significantly after.
significantly after what happened in Madame Mayo specifically
Mhm.
because they don't mention anything that happened in Triss and
Mhm.
stuff, so we don't even know how far it is away from that one and
Mhm.
stuff. So
We don't, and
very
they also,
ambiguous.
there's nothing mentioned of Krega or that era. Like there's
Yeah,
no mention at all, completely.
yeah,
So it's one of the things I want to talk about. So I know we talked a lot about timeline, but the
yeah.
geography, because this is my
Yes.
question so many times of how did this waterfall just suddenly not be there? I don't
Yeah.
understand how that works. And so I think if we're looking at the structure, if it's 800 years since the end of Madame Mayo to
Yeah.
Loamhedge, if we're saying that's about how long it has been, then actually the fact that there is changing geography and the fact that that's something that's mentioned in this book
Mm.
actually makes sense.
Yes, yeah.
So
They did that
continuity,
in Marl Fox too
they did
because they
that
were
with,
following, yeah,
yes, they did that in Marl Fox. They were following the Salamandastron,
Samkins. Yeah.
I believe.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
It was Salamandashron.
yeah. So it makes sense, sort of why that would happen, but it's still one of the uh discrepancies. Still, is in Madame Mayo. If you're looking at the maps, okay, everybody pull up your maps. Everything's fine. Just kidding. Um, in the Madame Mayo map, it's just about the above the cliffs. You don't have anything from Redwall onwards.
Yeah.
But the Bell and Badger's Head and the Lord of Mossflower, the giant tall tree, are, for all intents and purposes, they're on the north side of the gorge. Okay? Or no,
Yeah.
maybe not. Maybe north is the wrong. Maybe I'll say east. They're on the east side of the gorge. However, in Loamhedge, the Bell and the Badger are on the west side of the gorge.
Mm.
Now, here's what I'll say about geography changing. Yes, it can change. And it would have made sense if there had not been a gorge there already for Bell and the Badger to be on the east side of something, and then all of a sudden there's a gorge, and now they're on the west side of something. You know what I mean? There could have
Yeah.
been. However, here, there's already a gorge, there's already a crevice in the ground, and the Bell and the Badger are on the east side in Matameo, and somebody must have picked them up, brought them across the other side of the gorge, and planted them on the other side. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, it makes no sense. Nobody did that, Brianna. They're too big. It wouldn't have happened. So
No.
that's a discrepancy. What I will say is the tree falling down and then being used as a bridge,
Mm.
smart. I'll give
Yes,
them
yeah.
that. That's actually quite clever. Um, I'll give them that. That's all I'll give them,
Yeah.
though.
That actually is a very interesting thing to bring up because something that has been talked about lately a lot around like that I've heard. I work in a bookstore, I've said this before.
Yes.
But also I've gotten to know some authors in like the book communities that I'm a part of and
Yeah.
stuff, and I've had conversations about them a little bit with this. But it's talking about like specifically a lot what I've read is ongoing romance series. To varying degrees, the romance is a part of it and stuff. But in a lot of those romance series, they do a different couple every time.
Hmm.
So like it's an ongoing story, but we're from a different couple's perspective every time. So when you run into that, you introduce a lot of new characters every single time. Even if the said new couple, both of them have been mentioned in a previous book and everything,
Right.
more characters get introduced because you got a new, like you got old and new cast, and like so and so's mother's now is a part of this and stuff, and you didn't meet them in a previous book.
Right.
So at a certain point with some of these authors in these series, it gets kind of convoluted. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting character stuff, blah, blah, blah. And but this happens, the same thing happens in fantasy series, long running ones, specifically like this. And that's why like some authors have something like some authors have something like a has a basically like their series Bible, which is the thing
Oh,
they
I see.
reference for major events that they need to remember, certain things that happen to the character.
That's really
Now,
clever.
it is. Now, different people have different feelings about these things and stuff. Some people don't give a flying F about a character
Okay.
Bible and they'll just keep going. And stuff. Like, I honestly sort of feel like Brian possibly was one of those people from the things that we see. I
Yeah.
actually made a sort of character Bible for an author that I know. Because I really like this long running series of theirs, and I thought it'd be interesting to keep track of all the characters and like that
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And I did that for one of them, and they thanked me for it, which I was appreciated and stuff. Because I was just
Hmm.
like, "Hey guys, here's this if you're interested," and that kind of stuff. But then let's go to another famous fantasy author. If anybody knows Terry Brooks,
Hmm.
has been writing the Shannara series I don't know how long. Probably since the 70s, I want to say, and I could
Hmm.
be wrong about that. Give a decade or two maybe. But he's in his 90s now, I think, or like late
Yeah.
80s, and he only recently announced that he was retired or half retiring basically.
Yeah.
And he has been made
He's
mention
81.
81, geez, okay. So he's younger than I thought he was,
But
but
you're
still that's yeah.
and you're
Um
right. It was 70, 77.
Yes, got it. Love it. So, this guy though has been writing for a long time. I remember reading a quote or something of his in an interview where he was talking about that stuff, and he's like, "Well, the nice thing," he's like, basically, he didn't make a character Bible. He just relied on the fans that made these like websites and everything for him, and basic or made them for the series at some point. So he's able to go reference things that happened in that stuff. So he's admitted to referencing things that fans have put together about a series because he's like,
Mm,
I don't have time to remember all of the stuff that I've done over the last like 50 years of stuff and everything, and maybe even more time.
yeah.
So it's like, it's very interesting the way people go about their continuity in their series.
Mhm.
Again, some people just don't care and they just keep going. And I kind of feel like that's what the case was for Brian and everything with this.
Couple of thoughts. You've actually said this on the podcast before
That doesn't
about Terry
surprise me.
Brooks. Doesn't surprise me
Yes.
either. I know that because I literally just listened to that the other day. Um,
But the thing is, I was talking about it with authors last night. So, like, the whole
yeah,
character Bible thing, I don't
is
know.
fresh in your mind.
It is, yeah.
Second thing, Terry Brooks lives near us.
Oh, that's right. Because he's been to cons before, too. He's
Yeah,
been at a
I didn't know that.
couple.
That's
Yeah,
really cool. I just thought that was really cool. I've
that
actually
is.
never read the Shannara series or anything by Terry Brooks, but
Oh, okay.
I kind of want to now. Anyway, that's
Yeah,
not the point of this podcast. Um, we're gonna move on, okay?
we're gonna
To
move
the next
on.
thing.
Yep.
So, because we talked about the changing geography and also the fact that it is a parallel path to the path that Matthias took, although different,
Yes.
and the changing geography of that and how it's a little bit similar, a little bit different. And
Yeah.
also we talked a little bit about ancient text being the record of Matthias's journey, right? I don't know if we actually talked about that, but that is how they know how to get to Loamhedge is because it not the journey that Abbas Germain took like 1200 1300 years ago or however many hundreds of years ago it was at that
Yeah.
point, but actually the journey that Matthias took to Loamhedge.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any other things? You were the one that brought up the ancient text part
Yes.
before our conversation, so you had a thought about that.
So the thing I thought that was interesting is we first meet Martha and she's reading an old book.
Mhm.
The old book is about the journey from Loamhedge or whatever, or is like a reference to that time period. And she's reading this and stuff and just kind of has it around with her and everything. And the thing that I thought was weird to me, and I have some things that I could put into place to make I say excuse, but that's not the word, like explanation as to why this is. But like she has this ancient text about this thing that happened way before
Yeah.
the time of Madame Mayo. But whenever we talk about Madame Mayo's time, people are like, "Oh, that's so old." But when we brought up the Loamhedge thing, nobody made those similar comments.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of odd. Like, we're treating the Loamhedge thing a little bit less like it's so ancient, except for when we actually get there and we're like, oh, things are disintegrated
Yeah.
and stuff. But like when we talk about like Matameo's time, it's like, oh, that's ancient
That's
kind of
so
a
old.
thing.
And it's also interesting because they still have texts from the Loamhedge era. So, right.
Yes.
And obviously they're very fragile. And I it is just something I wish in a world building sense you could explore. And this is asking too much, I think, of any author, is I want to know how do they keep their books so pristine? Like how do they keep them, especially when they're stuck in the dusty old gatehouse, which seems to be where the recorders live and where, there's always that question of it's not going to be answered because my question
I
is, what's the
I do have a
process?
suggestion.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is how ancient books had kept up for a long time and everything, is
Mhm.
people um wrote them. Like not they like copied them down to a new piece of paper. So like that was the thing that I always kind of use like that made sense to me why they still have a book from Loamhedge's time because it had like them written it down and everything and stuff. Like that would make sense why you'd have an actual job of recorder just besides recording what was actually going on at the time is like they would be updating older texts and making
Mm,
sure that it was still in good condition or that kind of a thing. So that was always what my brain went to with that stuff.
okay. I can see why. I want to object the because it does the text is so ancient. Like they talk about
Mm,
the paper being so ancient that if it had been like copied onto newer parchment, that there should have been it shouldn't have been as fragile. And also there should have been an editorial of like this book copied by this recorder at this time
yeah.
during the season. Again, I'm asking too much. That's never the point of this. And I know that I'm asking too
Yeah.
much. It's just something that I think about. And also, I want to maybe clarify. I'm not thinking about this while I'm reading it. I'm thinking
No,
about this
yeah.
now as we're having a discussion
Yep.
of actually I would love to know. It's a tiny world building thing that would make it just a little bit more real. It's a little
Yeah.
finite detail that not finite, minute detail that I think would have made it's irrelevant. It doesn't add
Mm,
anything to the story to know that. What it does is add to the world to for
yeah.
me to know that this is their system and process, and that a uh it's not just about the vibes. It's
Yeah.
also about the hard reality of things. I know I'm asking too much for that, so I can move away from that. It's just something that if anybody ever listens to this who's writing a book and it's something like this,
Yeah.
please include how your people's culture keeps their ancient texts pristine. Anyway, okay. Any other thought on the ancient texts?
No, that was it.
All right, next, I want to talk about Martha because she's the main character or one of the major main characters of this book.
Yeah.
Specifically, she is a disabled person at the beginning of the book, and then she ends up learning how to walk by the end of the book. And it is a trauma response. Her inability to walk is a trauma response because of the horrific way that she and her family arrived at the Abbey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I also was just rereading or looking for something, and I stumbled across the fact that Martha and Hordy had only arrived at the Abbey 12 years ago. 12 seasons ago, excuse me.
Mm.
So, and she was described as a tiny babe. So theoretically speaking, she's only like 13
Yeah.
in this book. And so, somewhat I can understand that. Somewhat I'm like, I don't know about that because the way that she is treated by the Abbey elders is
Yeah.
a dual, it's two things. On the one hand, she is sort of favored in a way where it's
Yeah.
really like, oh, Martha, like she's such a sweetheart. She's so, she's so brave because she's had to learn how to use a chair and she's blah blah, blah all this. It feels sort of, I don't know. It feels sort of
This. ties a little bit into a qualm I have sometimes with the way he sets up how the Abbey is and everything.
Yeah.
Um, there's always a lot of old people and a lot of
Hmm.
like littles and
Yeah.
everything. And there's like a small handful of like teen to young adult ones.
Hmm.
Sometimes that it always fills out whenever they bring in shrews or otters.
Yeah.
But like any other woodlander, it's very rare that there's anybody. I'm using age as a general term here.
Hmm.
Anybody under the age of 30,
Hmm.
a larger group than just
Like
like maybe four.
between 18 and 30.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's very rare where there's a larger group of young ones essentially
Hmm.
at that age and stuff. And that's been the way the whole time. And I have a dis it's interesting because like there's other times where it's not as like bad, like um
Maybe Marl Fox actually would be a good one. There's
Marlfax,
quite a few.
yeah, but the thing is that one is also bad in a not bad, a example of that because like there was only so the only one that got mentioned was Dan that
Mhm.
actually lived there. Song comes in,
I
another
guess it's
one.
true. Yeah.
Then the shrews bring in more, which is again the
Yeah.
shrews fill in that gap a lot of the time. And then they meet the fourth person later outside of the of the Abbey. And then
Yeah.
left behind are people in their 30s and older and little guys and
Hmm.
stuff. So it slightly always bothers me that this one specifically with like Martha and everything. I love a good younger and older generation working together
Hmm.
stuff. Love it. But the only other people Martha's age are Horty and Co.
Hmm.
And um, it's like you don't have anybody else that can be a friend to Martha. Like we don't have like that was the thing I liked about with Tansy's book is Tansy literally had like it wasn't
Jacqueline
that
and
many.
yeah.
Yeah, like it had a few others and stuff. Still not that many, which
And even
always
Viola.
yes, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So it just is like very interesting to me that like his young like characters who they're usually the lead, there's literally maybe one other person their age
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. And it does sort of make it you're right. It's the under 30s. It's the 18 to 30s that is sort of a missing age range where you have a lot of people who are in their late 30s all the way up to ancient,
Yeah,
100, 200 years old if you're a badger. And then you have a lot of Dibbins and young ones, sort of the under, honestly, even under like tens.
yeah,
Sort of this range between 10 and 30 that is just there's so few of them. And it also makes you wonder how are they populated? Also, a lot of
yeah,
the Dibbins are orphans. Like
yeah,
there's very rarely ever mentions of this person's mother and this person's children and you know Tagarung was one of them where Philorn and the dad, whose name I've sadly forgotten, but then had Mira and she had Dana. So that's one thing that Mira would have been a Dibbin, but also they were otters and they often spent time with the otter tribe. Like Skipper and Philorn were friends from the olden days.
yeah.
So it's definitely interesting how he's got that gap. I also think it's interesting how going back to what I was saying about Martha specifically, is
Mm,
that Martha, as a disabled character, is at the same time treated as if I don't know. It felt tokenistic of she's the
yeah,
disabled one, and so we have to coddle her and sort of care for her, and sort of all the elders are like grandparenting her
yeah.
in a way that wasn't that
But they
nobody
also
else was really
respect her
getting.
at the same
Yes,
time and
and that's the
everything.
other side that so on the one hand is sort of what I felt was kind of negative and a little bit weird, but then you also have them being like she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's quite wise for someone who's a young one, and she's the one that's helping solve the riddles and helping do these things. And I also okay, so that's that. So I felt that the treatment of her by others at the Abbey was a bit strange. I did
Mm,
like that the Otter Cook did take a fatherly view of her and he
yeah,
really loved her and cared for her and that
yeah,
she was quite special to him. Because I love the idea of found family, adopted family. I think that's great.
absolutely, yeah.
Um, I also found it really interesting at the end where she starts to walk. And then we always talk about hares being sort of perilous and brave and a little bit reckless and gluttonous. Martha, through the whole thing, has just been not that. She's been completely
She did at one
woodlander coded.
So I know where you're going with this, but I'll let you finish in like, but I just want to mention when the battles are going on and stuff, she's still in her chair. She's
Mhm.
like, yeah, kind of a couple times and everything, and it made me laugh a little bit
Yeah.
because I was like, there's your, there it is.
Your heritage.
Yes. Wow, Caitlin.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. It's but when she starts to walk, that's when
Yeah.
she starts to do something reckless. And I thought that was cool that she came into her own a little bit like with that. Um, I do think I would have loved to see, and there are a few other times that we do see disabled characters, very rarely, but
Yes.
that actually remain disabled but don't
Yes.
fall. So Simeon actually was a really good example of that, of a character who's blind and has been for a very long time and yet is fully capable. Krega, same thing. She's
Yeah.
actually, wow, two times as blind. Okay. If I had a nickel for every time a
It's
character in Redwall was blind, I'd only have two
yeah.
nickels.
I
It's happened twice.
I'll be
Not
honest,
letting
and
me
it's
finish my
not
Dickensian's quote, but rude. Okay, keep
okay.
going.
Are you done?
Well, I finished the quote while you were still interrupting and talking to me, Brianna. So
Okay.
now
I see. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
teardrops on my guitar.
I do think it's interesting. No, not that. I oftentimes when we have disability rep and things, and I'm not saying this is perfect, but especially in fantasy settings, a lot of the time they will make the character deaf or blind
Hmm.
because it's easier for an author, especially one who's never been disabled in any way, shape, or form, to justify certain things in their brain
Hmm.
as to why those characters can still do all the things that they could do and
Yeah.
everything and stuff. And I use that as a reason, not a good excuse,
Hmm.
honestly, especially at this point, because that actually is a conversation that's come up a lot in D&D.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking the same
With
thing.
the yeah, with the wheelchair thing, especially a
Hmm.
couple years ago when I was a little bit more into online like D&D discourse and stuff,
Yeah.
is there was a supplement that was made for you to make. It was introduced into Critical Role.
Hmm.
That's why it became like such a big thing in front of everybody. Because at one point they introduced a character in a wheelchair, and people were coming out of the woodworks being like, "That doesn't make sense. They couldn't do this," and I'm like, the same thing every time anybody that actually with a brain, like when they think about this stuff, it's a fantasy setting. So
Yeah.
like I feel like we can figure stuff out and everything with all of that. And also though, um some of your characters that do have a disability don't need to be epic heroes kind of a thing. And
Hmm.
that is something I did appreciate about Martha through all of this. Even though it is a little disappointing that like we went the route of like her disability was a trauma thing and she could recover from it and
Hmm.
stuff. Obviously that does happen to some people,
Yep,
but for a lot of
absolutely.
people in that scenario, that doesn't happen,
Hmm.
and stuff. Or even like they can't walk because they literally don't have their legs, or
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
they literally like their spines break, whatever reason there might be and stuff. Um, but like for a long time when there has been disability rep, it largely has been blind or
Hmm.
deaf because, or sometimes mute is another one,
Hmm.
but they're like that doesn't hinder them largely in some ways from doing certain things that people stereotypically think about with somebody who has
Yeah.
like quote unquote a normal appearance and
Hmm.
stuff. That's actually a really something I've become more aware of as I've been into TikTok is wow, words are escaping me. Uh, People with dwarfism,
Mm, yeah.
and that community and everything. And it's been very interesting because like I learned pretty recently, like the movie Willow was a really big wow, I said that wrong. Was a really big thing for that community because
Mm,
it showed a community of people in that demographic actively
yeah.
doing things and actively like a part of a fantasy setting, and it wasn't just like people who were
Yeah.
shrunk like kind of with hobbits and everything like
Yeah.
that, but they
Yeah.
actively had a community, and there was warriors in them and hunters and all that kind of thing and stuff, and like
Yeah.
Willow was always a really big one for that community because there was good representation of it instead of
Yeah.
them being used as a token, uh and everything. And I do think there's a lot of like better room, like more room for those kinds of stories,
Yeah.
especially people in those communities being able to tell those stories, or even just bare minimum having people actually involve people from those communities if you're going to
Hmm.
and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I had two thoughts. One, Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's an episode
Hmm.
where they go to one of the air temples, and a bunch of sort of inventor types have taken over one of
Yeah.
the air temples. And one of the kids of that family is disabled. He doesn't have the use of his legs, and
Yeah.
he can fly still because
Yeah.
they've created a device that he can attach like a height sort of thing onto
Hmm.
his chair plus engine, and he can fly around with all the rest of his sort of community
Yeah.
because his disability limits him in some ways, but they found other ways that his disability like doesn't have to limit him in that way. And so I
Yeah.
think that looking back, and even Toph, who of course is classic, she's a blind character,
Yeah.
uh, in a way that bats use echolocation to see
Hmm.
things. She uses her feet and the vibrations of the earth to be able to see things. And
Yeah.
it's one of the things I appreciated about Avatar is that um their disability doesn't stop them from being useful. Toph is one of the most powerful characters in the show,
Yeah.
both Avatar and Legend of Korra. She is one of
Yeah.
the most powerful benders potentially ever that there has been because she created another form of bending, like
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. But what I love about her is she's still a character that
Yeah.
is flawed.
Yes.
One, because she has emotional flaws that are quite deep because she's got a bit of a complex about things, but also if it's not touching the ground, she can't see it. And
Yeah.
I love, love, love that. I love that it's maybe not maybe a flaw is wrong, but it's a limit to her abilities
Yes. Yeah.
that I find really fascinating. So that was one thing. The other thing I wanted to say was about the dwarfism thing. The Chronicles of Narnia, the shows, the movies or whatever,
Hmm.
that unlike The Hobbit, where they had just normal height people but shrunk down and using stepping on boxes and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the dwarves in both, or at least in Prince Caspian, I don't know if do they have dwarves in Blind Ocean Wardrobe?
There was one. There's supposed to be one because there's supposed to be one that drives this
Yes.
sled.
Okay. If I remember correctly, I think they had people with dwarfism because
They
it was
they
the famous guy, one of the
it's
famous
both
ones,
famous guys. It was oh
not in the
no, I
first
can't
one.
remember. It in the second one, it was both
In the
famous
second,
guys.
yes,
Peter Dinklage and I am forgetting
Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis, thank you.
Yeah,
Both were in that movie.
yeah.
I don't remember who was in the first one or what was
I don't
that was
know
a
that
part of
he
and stuff.
was one of the famous ones. I don't know. So I just found that interesting. I know that I'm sure
Yeah.
you have comments about this.
There's some definitely thoughts about people with dwarfism being put as dwarves. Like, there's a lot of things with that. I'm not going to speak into it because I am not a part of that community.
Yeah.
I just have watched, I actually follow quite a few.
Hmm.
And it wasn't even because I have friends who are. It just like, it's very interesting looking into a group that like I don't fully understand and being able to understand them a little bit better because
Yeah,
it's coming from the perspective,
absolutely.
um, and stuff. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely don't know everything about it or
yeah.
everybody's feelings about everything.
And I'm sure there's sort of a tokenistic thing about that, but it's one of the
Yeah.
things of instead of having to do something like that, you had people who
Yeah.
you
Well, another big one recently, and this goes into the whole CGI thing.
Mhm.
The more recent Snow White, which I refused to watch because it just didn't look good. They made all of the dwarfs literally
CG.
just their CG with their cartoon character look and stuff, and I was like, why did we do that and stuff?
Yeah,
I
man.
like, yeah, it just
Anyway,
I'm like,
yeah, we are
sorry.
so off topic, Brianna.
Yes,
Okay,
we
we got
are.
to rein it back in because we have been at it for too long.
Yes.
Because there's two more things I want to talk about
Yeah, yeah.
before we even get to the favorite character or even just talking.
Yeah.
Maybe no. Here's what we're going to do. Right now, we're going to transition to characters.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say our conversation about Martha and her disability was transitioning into talking about characters. So
Good
Caitlin
one.
of the past, edit that out or edit
Yeah.
that in. Good job. So the next thing I want to talk about is Lana, the badger,
Yes.
because there's a few things to talk about him. He is a badger, and not in, unfortunately, not in my version or the hardcover version that I have, but in one of the older versions of the cover, there is
Yeah.
a beautiful picture of Lana Bowstripe with them at the cave with his bow, and it's really cool. I
Yeah.
remember you getting some sort of mail when you were a kid
Yes.
about um with like a pin that had this little scene on it. It was so
Mm,
cool, and I'm so sad that we don't have it.
yeah.
Uh yes, okay, that is the cover that it is. It's the UK cover is what it was.
Mm,
Which makes a lot of sense. I gotta find the UK cover, Rihanna. It's so
yeah.
much cooler than the US cover. Um, so Lana is he's got a face scar, and again, it is a common thing for Brian to have a badger with a facial deformation,
Mm.
deformation. Because you had Sunflash didn't have a deformation, but there was something about his face that was
Kaylin, I don't think
different.
deformation is the right word.
He's deformed.
Deformation, though, doesn't sound right.
Facial
Sorry.
scarring. There you go. Is that better?
There you go.
Okay, there you go. Facial scarring. He's got some sort of facial feature that makes him stand out. Deformation is absolutely a word. I'm gonna Google that right now. Yes, it is a word. The action or process of changing in shape or distorting, especially through the application of pressure. Anyway, the point is, Lana has a facial scar from his interaction with Ragabol. Also, can I just say Ragabol makes me just think of spaghetti every time. Anytime they said his name in
That's
my head was
funny.
spaghetti bolognese. Because you know why? It's because one of my roommates when I was in the UK would call
Mm,
spaghetti bolognese spag bowl. That's
that
why.
makes more sense. Okay, because I'm like, yeah,
Anyway,
I've never made that connection,
that's
but
why. So he's Badger. He's massive as always. Badgers are gigantic, and
absolutely.
mentioned his size is mentioned so many times.
So many.
Especially in relation to Martha when he finally meets her.
Yeah.
Um, I find it really interesting that this is the first time a Badger's weapon of choice is not an axe or sword, that
Yeah.
actually it's a bow. And because Craig used a bow in Tagarung, I believe. Marl Fox and Tagarung actually, but it was not her weapon of choice. Her weapon of choice was an axe pike
Yeah.
back when she was a warrior. Lana is called Lana Bowstripe because he uses a bow, and I think it's really cool. I thought the way they did it was really awesome. His story parallels, I texted you about this actually this week, that his
Mm.
story parallels Grath of
Yes.
Holt Lutra
Yeah.
because they're both come from um vermin that have killed their kin, whether it's
Mhm.
actual kin or for Lana, it was just the male badger he was traveling with.
Yeah.
And that sets them out on a path of revenge against those creatures that
Hmm.
killed their family. And then they're also both bow using creatures.
Yeah.
They're both quite serious, but occasionally make a little bit of a joke. So there's just a lot of similarities between the two characters. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that was fully intentional of just, he's like, I really like this archetype that I built through Grath, so I'm going to
Yeah.
follow the same archetype through with Lana. I'm not sure.
It wouldn't be the first time Brian has reused a character playbook,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. And I think it's totally fine. Lana is probably one of my favorite Badgers on the entire planet. And
Yeah.
on the entire planet, in the entire series. I just had forgotten that until I reread this. He
Yeah.
also has sort of unlike other Badgers, where other Badgers are sort of there's this mysticism in their culture and in their mind when they get to the mountain. Everybody sort of has this sense that this badger is called to the mountain, and then they have visions of the past and the future and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Lana specifically has a foresight type of foresight's not even the right word. He's able to
He's a seer.
he's a seer. He's able to impress dreams into Ragabol and to warn Ragabol, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
I'm on my way. Get ready. And so I find that really fascinating as a character. So I thought he was really cool. And then we have to talk about Sorrow and Dragoon.
Yeah.
We have said many times, and actually in the lead up to this episode have said that there are many squirrel otter pairings. There's usually
Yes.
a skipper and a squirrel of some kind. That's sort of a pairing through Redwall. It is a common duo.
Yeah.
And I think the most iconic and the most tragic are Sorrow and Dragoon.
Yeah.
You've got Sorrow who's sort of a okay, I know this is not the right comparison. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You know Log Horizon.
Yes, I know Log Horizon.
So I'm seeing Sorrow again, personalities. If we take away the personality thing, I'm thinking
Yes,
of
yeah.
warrior archetype.
Yes.
Sorrow is more of the assassin type, the quick, agile, jumping in trees and moving around. She's
Yeah.
more like the girl, I can't remember her name.
Atsuki or something like that.
Something like that.
That might
Um,
be wrong, but starts with an
wherever
A.
it is. Starts with an A. She's more like her. And Bragoon is more like the knight guy. So not like the mastermind. He's more like the knight,
The one
the
she kicks all the time
the one
because
she kicks all
he,
the time.
yeah,
Yes,
because he's a
exactly.
dude and can't keep his mouth shut.
Yes, exactly. So again, I'm not saying personality because personalities they're not like those characters literally at all. But I'm just saying in the archetype of Bragoon is a bit more of a
Standard
stout,
warrior.
yes. And
It's
then
like he's a warrior, she's a rogue in a
yes,
D&D terms kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah. So and that's often what you get with these pairings is that the squirrels tend to be more agile and I mean the otters tend to be agile in the water, but on land they're just sort of brawny, stocky warriors that are
Yeah.
quite muscular and can do
Even
things.
the girl characters are, which I have appreciated, I'll
Mhm.
be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree. And because even the guy squirrels, same thing, is that they're quick,
Yeah.
agile. It's.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's really cool. I also again, I mean, it's a nuanced conversation, but male-female friendship that is
Mm,
a long-term friendship. There's never
yeah.
any romance in it. Now, granted, two different species. Brian doesn't cross species like that unless unless it's an adoptive type of thing where Song's grandfather adopted all the
Adopted.
hedgehogs and was
The
like,
other
"These are
thing
my children."
I think is interesting, despite the fact that he doesn't do cross-species relationship, he does make people comment on other species, how beautiful they are. Like,
Yeah,
great example in this one, when we meet the shrews, they are besotted with both Svenna and Springald,
yeah,
and neither of them are shrews
mm-mm.
and stuff. So I do think it's interesting how he does that still,
Yeah,
even though he doesn't do the cross species thing and stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Again,
Again,
there's not a lot of nuance with that.
yes, and I think I understand. It's a kid's book. It's also written in the early 2000s. It's by a dude in his 70s at the
And there's
time.
not, this isn't a series with really much romance in it. Actually, I think technically our next book is one of the most romantic of all of them.
Oh, yes, it is. You're so
Yeah.
right. Oh, I
Because
forgot. Yes.
even like even with the other two romantic-ish ones, which is Martin and Rose, which is tragic, and then
Matthias and
Matthias
Cornflower.
Cornflower,
Hmm.
who OTP, love the two of them.
Absolutely.
Um
Oh, but
like
Brianna, when we get to Eulalia, also really good.
oh, okay. I don't remember
I know you don't.
Eulalia at all, so I'm like, I don't even know if I actually read it. I may have, but like, so I'm excited,
Yeah,
actually, as somebody
it's
who
a
is a
good one.
romance reader and stuff. So
Yeah, ugh,
cool.
cannot wait. Anyway, just what I love about it is I love to see a solid male-female friendship that is not a romantic
Yes,
thing.
absolutely.
And granted, looking at these creatures, they're different, like species, biologically speaking. So, like, it makes sense that an otter and a squirrel are not going to be together because you, I mean, unless you have the weasel rat pairing, because the were rat, you spelled it were as in werewolf,
I
but
know. I did
in,
that on purpose.
did you?
Yes.
Okay.
I did
In
it on purpose because I was like, I'm not gonna go look at actually how it's spelled, but this is basically how it's said. So
Okay. Because in the book it's spelled Wearat because
Mm.
it's a cross between a weasel and a rat is I think
Yes,
what
yes.
what they're trying to say there. So
Yes, yes.
um I think on the one hand it makes sense. This is also a question, not a question, but a thing that's brought up for me in Zootopia because everybody ships um oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name? What's the fox guy's name?
I
I
had
just
it on the
remember
tip of my
Judy
tongue,
Hopps.
and you saying you forgot made me forget.
How is that? Is that how that
It's a
works?
thing. It's
No,
a
it's
thing.
not.
It is.
Um,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Anyway, that's
Grumpy
what
Fox dude.
Grumpy Frog. Nick?
Nick. There you go.
Nick Wilde?
Yep.
Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps.
Absolutely. Yep, yep.
Um, yeah, but I appreciate the Sorrow and Dragoon
Friendship.
friendship and
Yeah.
how deeply they care for one another also through the book. That they're a
Yes.
pair, they're a duo, they're friends that it reminds me a bit of Marielle and Dandon actually.
Yeah.
And that one is actually I think superior because they're of the same species and yet they're just very good friends. And they travel together and they do warrior things and um they're just really good friends. So I think that's really cool. Um And I think the other thing we have said a few times, we're talking about tragic deaths in Redwall, that there's a lot
Yeah.
of these last stands that the Brian really likes to have. So Finbar, he had a whole last stand. He died
Hmm.
and it was really sad and there's a lot of grief there. And also the
Yeah.
friendship between him and Joseph and with Joseph
Yeah.
weeping over that. Like it was just so sad. And then you have the hares in the Long Patrol, the no, not the Long Patrol.
There's a couple of hair. Oh,
Well, the
hairs in
hair's in the Long Patrol, yes, but it's come on,
no, the
remember it.
ones it was in Mariel, I think. Was it not Rose?
Tar
Rosie?
Rosie and Tarquin?
Yeah, because yeah, that was in Mariel.
Was
Because
it?
Rosie was in Bellmaker, because she got to be a part of
On
that
the
adventure
boat.
fully.
Yeah.
But
No,
she
you're
was the only
right.
one of her three companions that survived from the first
Yeah.
book in
Okay,
that
you're
stand
right.
against the vermin. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. So that was one. So okay, so Rosie and the sergeant and colonel that she was with, those that sort of last stand death. And then you have in the next book you have Finbar Galedeep who had quite a tragic death. And then you have later you have the Long Patrol which had Rock who made his last stand to protect, and that was really sad. And then all the creatures that died at the Battle of the Hill,
Yeah.
basically. But I think we've agreed, we've said it several times in the past, that of all of the deaths, that Sorrow and Dragoons, I guess, touched us the most when we were kids and was the most sad. And I
For
could
me,
never.
it
Okay.
was Finbar. This one was second
Oh, this was second.
and stuff.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
But this is an iconic one that we remembered quite clearly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, And when I was listening to it, because I did the audiobook, I realized why. And actually, I tend to listen to audiobooks on 1.5 or 2 speed.
Two, and I can't do it.
I know. I was listening to one on 2 speed, and while I was showering, this was like months ago, and my roommate was like, "What are you listening to?" Because it was one of the high-pitched voices. And I was like,
Yeah.
and she's like, "How do you even understand that?" And I was like, the thing is, some of it I don't, but it's also okay because I'm like, context. I can pick up the context. So
Yeah.
that's on me. I tend to listen on 1.5 speed. That is what I listen to. So if people are listening to this podcast and they're like, these people talk so slow, I'm like, listen to 1.5. And it sounds for me like normal speaking voice. I know it's
Hmm.
not because when I'm listening to this and editing it, I want to be listening to our own podcast on 1.5 speed, but I
Yeah.
can't because you can't do that when you're editing.
Yeah.
So it's a real bummer for me. Anyway. Um, but yeah, so their death is quite intense. I also he leads up to their death a lot.
Yeah.
Just so many points. It's like, oh, you're my best friend. I
Yeah.
love you so much. We're gonna go back to the Abbey and live out our days together. I'm tired of adventuring. I'm tired of traveling. I'm old. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm tired. Literally, he mentions them being aging so many times. Every
They
time he
are
refers to him,
they
it's
kept
like
referring to them as old, and I was like, all
the
right,
aging
like,
squirrel, the
yeah.
aging otter, and I'm like, tell me you're gonna kill these characters without telling me you're gonna kill these characters.
The same thing happened in the last book though too with Shog. I think that was his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't the whole age thing, but it was literally at one point Triss is like,
Yep.
"That's my buddy. I love him." And
Yep.
then immediately right
We're gonna
after,
free the slaves. We're gonna
yep,
spend the rest of our days at Red. It's gonna be a
yeah,
grand old happily ever after time.
yeah,
Then he dies. And it's
yep,
like, oh, this is just rude. Okay. So I think, I mean, I've said this a bajillion times.
uh-huh.
Might be our longest episode yet. We'll see the runtime at the end of this. But because there's two things I want to read from the book,
Okay,
but I want to do where we can talk about our favorite characters if we have a favorite character, and then we'll do the rating. And then I want to do at the end of the characters, I want to read the death of Sorrow and Dragoon,
mm,
and then I want to do the ratings, and then I want to read sort of the end.
okay,
So I'm gonna go first. My favorite character in the book is probably Lana. He's
okay.
a cool badger. I loved his character, and then closely followed Sarah and Dragoon. And I wish we could have seen Lana and Sarah and Dragoon fight together because that would have been really
Mm,
cool. They could have been a
yeah.
cool trio. So that's my favorite characters. I like Lana's whole story. I know that it's basically the same thing as Grath's. I think it's cool. Lana actually got to enact his revenge upon Ragabol, where Grath didn't. It was Martin that was the one who actually killed not Martin's. I'm so sorry. No, yeah, it was Martin. Martin the second.
Well,
Wow.
Martin got him to step on the bad
Yes,
snake and
but
everything. But yeah,
he shouted Holt Lutra in the face of the bad guy. So
yes, yeah.
anyway, who are your favorite characters?
I don't really have like a specific favorite one. I enjoyed a lot of characters in this. I feel like they all played off each other really well.
Mhm.
I do remember liking Martha because I remembered
Yeah,
Martha from all of this, and I remember enjoying her. This one not so much, but I think it's because I'm an adult now.
yeah,
And while I still sometimes as an adult enjoy like teen characters or like them doing like crazy things, um, it's not, I don't connect with them quite as much as I did back then. And I remember connecting with her. My one miffed thing, I was like
yeah,
very confused. I thought she became abbess, but
yeah.
she
So did I.
didn't. And I was like, why
Yeah,
was she not chosen to be abbess when, like, yes, Fenna learned a lot. I get where he was going with this. But like Martha did all the very similar things that Tansy and Mira did. And even like Song was a little bit different because her journey was different. But like I'm confused about why we chose Fenna over Martha technically in all of this.
yep,
Looking at the previous evidence of who a lot of the time usually gets chosen to be abbot or abbess and stuff. Um, so yeah, that was just very interesting to me. I was totally remembered it wrong for sure.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I don't really have a favorite in this story particularly.
Yeah, that's totally fair. All right. So I want to read of the death
Mm,
of Ragoon and Sorrow.
yeah.
Um, so they have sent Brianna said this in her summary. That the warriors fight hard to make their way to the other side, and they push the younger ones past them, telling them to get to the friends they knew would be on the other side. So they've told Horty, Fenna, and Springald, go get back to the Abbey, take the thing to Martha, go, be gone. We'll take a last stand. And it is really sad. Yeah. There's a moment it says blinded by tears of rage and helplessness, Horty went. So he leaves. The Abbey maids go. And it says this. It says the vermin were still coming. Dragoon and Sorrow were bowed with fatigue, but covered in blood and severely injured. They were still taking on all comers. They fought side by side on the narrow causeway of timber, keeping their eyes on the advancing enemy, talking to each other as they thrust and parried. Sorrow panted. The young ones are gone. Pity we couldn't have gone with them. Dragoon dislodged a Phobes with his spear. What, you mean back to Redwall? Don't think I could have stood it, mate, sitting in the gatehouse with old Fred, counting me teeth as they fell out and dozing all day. Sorrow wiped blood from her eye and chuckled. Dibbins climbing all over us, old Sativa physicking away at us, wrapping rugs round our laps in winter. Dragoon caught a ferret in the throat with his spear. Might be even worse. They could have sent us back to Abbey School. We'd have had Sister Portula teaching us to read and write and figure. No, that ain't for us, pal. The aging squirrel caught sight of Karen Jewel advancing. Oh, look out, Bragg. Here comes the big ugly mug. We better start backing off. Blood and fur, look at the size of that monster. He must have ate some dinners with that fork. The vermin advanced on them as they retreated. Sorely wounded and drained of strength, the two old friends continued to hack and slash. Vastly outnumbered by their adversaries, and knowing that they would be beaten and captured by Karen Jewel, they crawled down from the long bridge with one last desperate plan in mind. The Wereat pressed forward, holding his lethal trident ready as he taunted his victims. The Lord of life and death will keep you alive. I will make your dying long and slow. Your companions escaped the Wereat, but you shall pay for them. Dragoon and Sarabando were not listening. Between them, they had jammed half-dozen spear butts under the edge of the tree trunk. With a last mighty effort, both beasts put their shoulders to the spears, using them as levers. Sorrow gritted her teeth and growled. 1, 2, 3, push! The long trunk moved askew with a grating of wood on rock. Panic ensued out on the tree trunk as vermin tried to run back to the other side. Some threw themselves flat and clung on. Dragoon yelled above the din of wails and screams. She's moving, mate. Again, 1, 2, 3, push! Cairngel dropped his trident. Crouching low, he gripped the tree trunk, trying to move forward and reach his enemy. At last, the mighty trunk of the tree, once called Lord of Mossflower, groaned like a living thing as it made a half turn to one side and slid over the brink of the ledge. With the effort of their final push, the two old warriors had fallen flat. They watched as the log seemed to hang for a split second in space, with Carangel's face looming in front of them. Then the whole trunk fell into the bottomless abyss. Screeches and shrieks rent the night air, swiftly fading to echoes. Down, down into the dark gorge it all plunged, to Wereat, his vermin army, and the only solid bridge that had ever spanned the awesome space. Dragoon and Sorrow lay there, staring down into the void, their paws clasped. The aging squirrel closed her eyes. Nice and peaceful here now, ain't it, mate? The otter gave her paw a faint squeeze. Aye, restful, you might say. Summer's a good time to lay down and rest. No longer able to keep them open, Dragoon slowly closed his eyes. Sorrow, you recall what it said on the gravestone at Loamhedge? Young Fenna read it out to us. I said I liked the sound of it. Sorrow nodded weakly. I remember, mate. It said, gone to the sunny slopes and quiet streams. I liked it, too. The otter's face grew fainter as he repeated the phrase. The sunny slopes and quiet streams. I'll wait for you there, Sarabando. Wouldn't go any place without you. His paw went limp in the squirrel's failing grasp. She smiled. Wait for me, Braggle mate. I'll be there. The two old warriors, who had left Redwall Abbey when they were Dibbins, paw and paw, lay on the rock ledge together. They never saw the sunrise that dawn, but they went on to the land of sunny slopes and quiet streams, still holding paws. I'm still emotional reading that.
Yeah.
So when I listened to that on the audiobook, I was 1.5 speed, teared up while I was listening to it.
Yep.
Then I went back, put it on 1 speed, and I listened to it at 1 speed, and it just was absolutely beautiful. The reason I think you should listen to it on audiobook, everyone, is because Sorrow has a Welsh voice, so that her accent is Welsh, and I think it just his accent with her accent and the way the actors are doing it, it's just really beautiful, and especially the way that the woman who does the voice actors for Sorrow, the way that she responds in that moment with the I'll wait for me, Braggle mate, I'll be there, just wrecks me.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So that was really beautiful. What would you rate this, Brianna?
I would rate this like a 4.5 probably for this, nostalgia wise. I remembered a lot more of it than other ones and stuff, and it's still really like stuck to me even now.
Yeah.
Essentially the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. 4.5. I will read it again. It's, I think, one of my favorites of the books. Yeah. And, yeah, I just really like the characters. So,
yeah.
We'll end with this. Classic Redwall ending. And then we'll do the actual ending of our podcast. One of the things I love about Redwall is the focus of hospitality. I've said this in so many episodes. I'm saying it again because it's really important to me.
Yeah.
And this is a quote from the end of the book with Springald, who becomes the recorder of Redwall Abbey. And she says, "If you too are traveling, questing, or journeying anywhere, remember this. You will always find a welcome here at Redwall Abbey, young or old. As friends come by, they often call in to enjoy Redwall hospitality. Who knows? Maybe we will see you here someday. You can sit with us, rest and be refreshed, and learn. Young ones have much to learn, and old ones too. Carol said to me only the other day, we are never too old to learn. He was a wise abbot. He is an even wiser old gatekeeper. I hope someday I may grow as wise as him." So, Brandon, do you have any other thoughts on Loamhedge? We've covered, gosh,
A
so
lot.
many different things in this
Yeah.
episode.
Nah, I don't have anything else to add.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Readers Clubhouse. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify every other Friday. Check the episode description for our socials and join us in the clubhouse next time as we discuss Rackety Tam by Brandon
Rackety
Jakes
Tam.
with a guest
With a guest, yes.
in our main series. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's going to be a very long episode also.
Yeah.
So everybody buckle in.
If any of our other guest episodes have been indications,
Yeah.
and it's a Redwall book. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, wish us luck.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.